Earth debate live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Ko-fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Eli, Brian, Refracted, Neil, Click OK, Duncan, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server. So, welcome one and all.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Morning.
Good morning.
Oh, good morning. Good to have you all. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
Since angles have two straight lines, you're going to need the surface to be a straight line.
Yeah, we measure Earth flat. It's how all the maps have been developed, and how the assumption of a globe capable of reification is also developed with those measurements of a flat plane with those angles to the stars. We were just discussing in the pre-show.
You're measuring it vertical.
Oh, go on, Brian.
I just say it's not just two straight lines. You're measuring a vertical, and that vertical has to be perpendicular to horizontal. And the vertical you're measuring will be from the GP of the celestial body, let's just say to the celestial body, or from the base of, let's say, a tower to the top of the tower or a mountain. So whatever distance you are from that mountain or from that GP point or the base of that tower, that has to be horizontal. As in, even if it's at a different elevation, it must be parallel to a horizontal, which would be mean sea level. The point is that when you're using celestial navigation, sea level becomes horizontal. Your mean sea level is your horizontal. So
right.
There's no, like, how can you measure a vertical and that not be perpendicular to a horizontal? It's impossible geometrically.
Same with all verticals. They're all parallel with one another as well. A parallel zenith.
It's just a lot of people miss that point when it comes to elevation angles. It's not just two lines; it's three lines. Because the line that you're leaving out is the one that's actually being measured, the straight vertical, because it's an elevation. So elevation is a vertical height above a horizontal plane.
One of my favourite things.
It's always a right angle triangle. Sorry.
At the moment, when the argument goes to this, and the opponent tries to lie and suggest that elevation angles have got nothing to do with the surface. Well, what the hell does elevation mean? You know, that intrinsically ties it to the surface. Like, elevation from what? In the middle of space. No, with respect to the horizontal plane of reference. When you get to the end of the point, I want to kind of engage the live audience with what we were discussing about the pain of our opponents in the pre-show, but carry on, Brian.
Oh yeah, it's just that's the thing. Is here they want to deny the right angle triangle for elevation when it comes to celestial bodies, but they want to use it when it comes to a mountain. Now you're not using trigonometry with the celestial bodies. You can if you want, but you won't get the answer you're looking for. That's why you have to do it different. But the point is, if you're measuring elevation, then you're not measuring in two dimensions. You're measuring in three, because you're measuring a height above a plane.
Hey, Brian, I can measure an elevation angle to the end of a rainbow. With that would mean the pot of gold could be there, right?
And it's GP.
Well, it's only locally gold.
Okay, the point of all this is in the pre-show we were discussing the fact that with time as a flat earther, things become less concerning. Now, you can call that comforting if you like, but that wasn't the context we put it in. It's more the idea that if you haven't got to worry about it, you won't worry about it. Therefore, it's not cause for concern. Whereas our opponents, the anti-flat earthers very specifically, not your rank and file average Joe Normie. Shout out to Goldie for gifting a membership. But your anti-flat earther, that guy is in more pain as the time progresses. You know, back in the day, they lived in wishful thinking that flat earth would be been and gone and done and dusted within a year. You know, 12 months from now, there won't be any flat earth. I've been hearing that for 10 years. Yeah, that's wishful thinking. But for the people who actually engage with the discussions and the debates, it becomes more and more stressful to be an anti-flat earther. They've fallen down the same exact rabbit hole as us, but their rejection of the reality that they're faced with leads them in cognitive pain and often cognitive dissonance, where their current constructs that they form with things like photographs, as we were discussing it in the pre-show, contradicts the actual reality when photos from space are the subject of discussion. But for us, we know it's fake. We don't have to square the circle of unrealistic pictures anymore. We don't even have to concern ourselves with them. On this show especially, we very rarely talk about space beyond the it's fake, gas would be filling it. That's about where it ends. There's nothing more to say. Do we concern ourselves with the most recent fakery from NASA? No. I can't remember the last time I ever looked at any of it.
Well, why it becomes easier for us than them over time, becomes more difficult for them and easier for us, is because when you first come into the topic, you're dealing with a lot of people on the opposing side who appear to have a lot of information and appear to know lots of things. And you don't realize until time goes on that half of what they're telling you, they have wrong anyway, right? They keep getting things wrong. They keep messing up. They keep on getting their facts wrong. They keep on coming out with big statements that are wrong. And so consequently, people start losing faith in them. They start going, well, that fella didn't know what he was talking about. I thought he did, but then this fella didn't know what he was talking about. I thought he did as well, but he don't know. And then over the course of time, you realize that the ones that actually do understand certain things, let's say like your Ruhips or whatever, that do understand certain things and will get a lot of their kind of, let's say, facts straight, they don't actually, even with all that, they don't have an argument. So Ruhif, as tricky as he wants to be, he doesn't actually have an argument to present. So it doesn't matter how good he is at maths or how good he is at geometry or how well he knows whatever part of physics. It means nothing because he doesn't have an argument to present. And that's what happens on our side.
Right.
We end up realizing that they don't know what they're talking about most of the time, and we actually do have an argument.
Exactly.
They don't.
So when it comes to Ruhif on McToon show with resident guru John, his approach to John was to rumpus him. Because what else have they got? It doesn't matter how good they can present here's 20 minutes of I'm really good at maths. But the moment a question comes about the flat earth that's needed for them, it descends into rumpusing almost instantaneously because they don't actually have an argument. They've got subterfuge, and that's it. 58 people watching. Please share the show if you've not done so already. Massive shout out to all the regulars who are always smashing the share button.
Yeah, it's a great example because I couldn't think of anyone, and I mean anyone anywhere. I don't care what their status is, Brian Cox, anyone else, that would be better than Ruhif as far as defending heliocentrism. Like he is the trickiest you're going to come across, I would say. But when he was against John just sat there, listened to 25 minutes, and then of Ruhif, right, basically making half the stuff up, but yet he knew what he was talking about. And it came to John, he didn't even get through a sentence and a half without being interrupted because he had an argument. It didn't matter. Even if John didn't know anything, had no education, but only had an argument, he still won. Or he still was going to win, you know?
Remember the MASH song? 'Cause globe belief is painful. It brings on many changes. And I can take or leave it on my show. Da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum. Remember MASH?
MASH.
Yeah.
It's depressing.
I won't mention the S word, but in some instances I do concern myself. As much as I like to profess to having limited empathy for our opponents, sometimes I do think about it, as in I do have empathy, I'm lying. And I think these people are on the edge, and that can lead to consequences, let's just say, without using any particular S words. You know what I'm talking about, I'm sure.
Yeah, you know, they can shock you, like Buck Sodbuster. He got me the pitch data. It's like, he didn't have to do that. He could have hit it. You know what I mean? Why did he decide to do that? I don't know. Maybe he'll get a hard time off his own side for it, but I mean, I think he just thought that there was no. I think he just thought maybe that nothing could be garnered from it or something. I don't know. He was just interested, actually. He was just actually interested from what you've been saying to me.
Number one, he's probably interested in your take on it. And number two, sometimes people's confidence is so high in their faith that they think, no, nothing that I present could possibly alter that because it's correct. We had that more 5 years ago where people would just off the cuff present us something. And there was also the shills of the world like Rumpus that are out there telling you that things like sextants only work on a globe, just outright lies to throw you off the scent. But there are others unlike that that are doing it, not doing it so egregiously and overtly, but doing it because they are none the wiser to the flat earth evidence that they're presenting you. And in their mind, no matter what I dig out, it will prove a globe, especially if the propaganda in the first paragraph says, on a globe we use blah, blah, blah to prove a globe. It's like, yeah, but then when you get down to the nitty gritty of what the actual claim is and what it's using a flat earth. But you just didn't realise it because you're a headline reader. You read the word globe and automatically assumed that this would back your claim, not realising that there could be a layer of propaganda on top of it. But you're not vigilant enough to, or fastidious enough to actually read past the first frigging paragraph.
Well,
I think what has happened.
But Brian, then John.
Okay, I'll keep it as short as possible. I spoke with Buck Sodbuster after the show, just through email. Now, he wrote me an email, and I wrote him one back, and I didn't check back in yet if he replied. But he said, he said, I got well received in the chat and enjoyed it. He said, and you done a really good presentation, Ollie. He said, but there's one thing he failed to address, and he said it was that planes will hold a constant altitude, and they just follow that air pressure around the sphere. And it's just like, I know he's not telling me a load of rubbish. What I mean is that I know he's not just saying that. He's actually thinking that. And I told him I actually addressed that in the presentation. It was addressed. So if you have to do that, it means they still have to pitch below, or that you'd have to pitch. That's still following the circle. So the geometry doesn't change. You still have to pitch below horizontal. But like, maybe he was busy while in the chat. Maybe he didn't see that part of the presentation, but it was pretty clear. Like, I think that sometimes that some of them, they're not paying attention to what we say. It's like maybe they just shut it off. No.
Yeah.
That actually goes into my point, Brian, because what it is like, you remember the dancing bear? You have the white shirts passing the ball and the black shirts passing the ball. And the flat earth believers have been counting the white shirts, and the globe believers have been counting the black shirts. So them two are having a completely different conversation than what we are having. They don't know how to respond. Either side doesn't know how to respond to us because we're pointing out the dancing bear.
Yeah, very true. They're not listening enough to be able to give us a proper response, I think, most of the time.
It's back to Eli. Eli is saying that it's being processed with Ubuntu and we're running on Windows. It's just not working correctly. So it's in one ear and out the other. It can't process it. They can't process this information like this on screen, right? We talk about the horizontal plane of reference being inside the sphere and the sphere being the protractor. Is that sentence going to process it in the mind's eye of an anti-flat earther? No. They just look at the picture and go, globe. There's a globe in there. Look, there's a globe. So it's a globe. No, we're pointing out how the the measurements work within the globe because the globe is effectively a glorified protractor. The only mapped spherical bit is the perspective representation of the angles to a flat sky over a flat ground that can be made into this view for the celestial sphere. But you're still on the flat plane that's sectional in this view. What's heard by a globe? A globe picture. Picture of globe, therefore globe. That's what the globe hears. They're not hearing any of it. It's in one ear and out the other. It doesn't process. They need a new operating system.
On Bev's show, just very quickly, John, on Bev's show a couple of years ago, they had this saying that they would say, it's just his globe, because no matter what was presented, all they got was his globe. That's all they got every time, no matter what was presented geometrically, his globe. You know what I mean? It's like a jerk reaction kind of sometimes. Go on.
Yeah, well, I was going to just give you examples where you tell them about flat Earth elevation angles, and they go, yeah, therefore it's a globe. It's the globe turning through those angles of the latitude. You're like, what? So you're now twisting a protractor that you think the globe is with you standing on the outside edge of the protractor? Yeah, because it's a globe. Like, no, it isn't. But the way you're processing this is, no matter what I say, if you strap on the words, therefore it's a globe at the end of it, or even repeat the flat Earth evidence back to me and say, therefore it's a globe at the end of it, in their mind, that works. That's okay. That's cool. You know, because we measure in the middle of the globe, we've got a globe to be in the middle of measuring from. No, we're not in the middle of anything. We're on the surface measuring. No, we're inside the globe, therefore globe. That's how it works when you're in a globe. You know, we're not in a globe. We are, look, it's right there in the diagram. Therefore, we're on it. Therefore, globe. You're like, no, we're explaining how your globe gets created with the flat Earth measurements, and all you're hearing is the end result after the calculations and extrapolations, ignoring all the measurements and hearing the word globe at some stage in it. Even if I say the globe's therefore a protractor, they hear globe and go, there we go, it's a globe then. No amount of explanation is ever going to sink in.
Well, I'm laughing, but it's true. I mean, it's true no matter what you present. It's, you know, if they do listen to us at all, like if you go in and look at some of the comments on the Ballbusters forum the other night, hey, when you go in and watch that on Saturday, see the comments. There's only a few comments there from ballers. One of them is your man Peyton as a shield. The other one is from Steve, the lad Bucks Buster. And then there is another lad, again, who has something to say. But basically, it's like, with the exception of Bucks Buster, it was like, you don't know anything, they're all wrong, you're all wrong. That's it. So it's either that, or just at the end of the conclusion, just go, perfect globe proof.
Yeah.
And I mean,
exactly.
It's one or the other.
Yeah, exactly. The justification, I was on one of them, it happened recently in one of the Omi videos with one of the, general globe believing normies. And everything I explained to him, his reply was, well, that means it's a globe, right? Because I'm saying, I start off by explaining, well, I can tell you where the globe came from. Well, you measure the Earth flat with these angles, and then I take him through the process in a very basic way of how you get to a globe. And his reply is to say, well, does that mean that it is a globe then? I'm like, okay, well, you've picked out the bits of my sentence where I've described creating the globe mathematically, and are asking me does that mean it is a globe then? Because if you say yes in this point, I'll be happy, because that means it is a globe, even though I've explained to him we're measuring Earth flat to get to this globe. If I answer yes, that person will leave happy. All right, I knew it was a globe all along, and this affirms it, this flat Earth measurement you've just explained to me. You say that does prove we're on a globe then. Yeah, that's that. If I was a deceit and a charlatan over the last 300 years telling you that that would be the case, then yeah. If I was Ruhif, I'd be saying yeah. Yeah, us measuring a flat Earth with angles to the stars and projecting them into hell through a protractor called the globe Earth to the angles on a spherical surface that's created in the sky that was measured flat also. I can say that yes, that does mean we're on a globe, sir. Yes, that's correct. But I'd be lying, wouldn't I? But that's the world we're faced with. People who will literally say yes at the end of that complex affirmation of flat Earth measurements. They'll say, yeah, that does mean we're on a globe. No, it bloody doesn't. It violates the measurements that you took in the first place. But in your mind, figuring out how those measurements were originated on the surface that was curved, therefore can't be functional, therefore put it in hell, is the reason we're still on a globe in the case of Ruhif. Like, you should know better. But like anybody, like the guy we were discussing in the pre-show with his excellent understanding of photography, doesn't matter when it comes to looking at pictures of the globe, because that affirms his religious belief. Therefore, pictures of the globe are good. Doesn't matter what errors I might have seen with them with a critical eye in terms of photography. This is something else. This is affirming my religion. Measurements in hell affirm my spherical belief. Therefore, of course we can get measurements in hell.
But yeah, he's not listening. It's like when you're speaking to a lot of them, not all of them, but for a lot of them, when you're speaking, they're only hearing certain words. The rest of it is being blocked out. And that's why sometimes when you say something to them, like sometimes it's dishonesty, but sometimes it's purely down to when you say something to them or you respond to them and they kind of just seem to hand wave it, right? Sometimes they hasn't listened. They've only heard like certain words, like the word globe and the word measurement and the word, the word, I don't know, sphere, something like that. And that's all they picked out of it. They haven't listened to what was actually being said. They were blah, 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 globe, blah, 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 measurement, blah, 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 sphere. Okay. You know what I mean? That's all they've taken in.
Exactly.
It's even worse. It's even worse when it's someone on your own side that's supposedly arguing for the same position you are, who takes the information that you're sharing with them and tries to argue against it.
Yeah, that does frustrate me because that reeks of laziness when it's our own side. In other words, I've got used to this way of arguing now. I can wake someone up to the idea that the Earth is flat by telling them there's an ice wall and a dome, and I can do that. That's been successful. Creatures do what they have done previously and have been successful with. So when they get into our own side, this is now flat earthers, get into the habit of using these tools that they previously used to wake people up, in quotes, then they just continue to use them even though we'll point out flaws with them in the way that they're dangerous for later debate in this subject, how it will lead to your inevitable downfall. Now, as horrible as it is to say this, and I'm not going to mention any names for obvious reasons at the end, there's so many people who are prevalent flat earthers who have ignored our warnings, which is what they are, in regards to this, and have instead followed these poor arguments to fruition to the point where they will be holding up a loss where they didn't need to. It was first the case with Bob Nodell with gyros. It's like you leaning into this affirming the consequent fallacy when you could be holding your opponent to task based on their claim there's supposed to be 15 degrees an hour of drift. Well, they're using you to affirm it, and you're denying it in the case of your loss when you've got a faulty gyro, and saying that the consequent is actually caused by ether. Like, so you've affirmed the consequent with a new P statement, rather than just admit that, okay, so this proves we do have 15 degrees an hour of a separate reference frame. Well, then flight times would be reduced if Earth's turning underneath, as this gyro is suggesting. But they didn't want to lean into it because they had a faulty argument to begin with. We can show that Earth's not turning with a gyro. You're going to affirm the consequent, aren't you? If you're going to try and prove that. Now, if you show a practical use for it, an actual usable reference to the spinning plane that is established with the gyro, and show how that's practically applied in the real world to avoid death in the air, for example, then that's a very useful demonstration. But if you just say, if I don't observe 15 degrees an hour drift, then Earth's not turning, I don't observe the 15 degrees an hour drift, therefore I can affirm my presupposition, which isn't in need of proving. You don't have to prove the non-existence of Earth turning. If you're saying it's stationary, you haven't got a positive claim to make. There's no need to affirm the consequent with a gyro. You can show in practical application how that would be the case with a gyro. But our opponent needs there to be a 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns underneath. Now, if that is the case, then Earth's turning underneath stuff. Hold them to it. But we, over the years, have refined these arguments and found the flaw, and also found out where our useful idiot nature as flat earthers serves our opponent's interests when we work within the confines of their fallacies. It's happening right now with the final experiment. Us falling down a rabbit hole so far that we get trapped in this assumption of things like azimuthal equidistant globe projections being flat Earth models that are the be-all and end-all of the movement of celestial items we've got no clue about, to the point where we'll tie ourselves to Earth being flat based on what a model does, or what a map does. Sad.
Yeah, I was only thinking last night, or I think it was, or today, there was some video from some years ago where someone was talking about, it was like a flat Earth video from 7-8 years ago, and it was about, something like how Mercury does this, that, or the other thing, or, something like that. It wasn't exactly that, but it wasn't that, but it was something like that. It's like why were we trying to explain things? You know what I mean? We didn't realize we were just making stuff up. So many of us didn't realize it's just making stuff up. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
So why are you making it up?
Oh,
you know
we
what I
should
mean?
have been recorded after, I think it was after Ballbusters. You and I and QE and Adam and all the rest of us were all chatting away, and we were discussing various arguments that have fallen out of favour. And they're basically all arguments from bullshittery, like solar luminescence and various other things of a similar ilk, where, oh, they sounded great in 2015. Maybe it's a bit later, 2016, whatever, doesn't matter. But now people aren't using those arguments, crap though they were in the first place, to try and suggest that that proves a flat Earth in one form or another. And there was a whole bunch of them. Shout out to Goldie for gifting another membership. Really appreciate the support.
It's kind of funny though, because it's a what is, a matter of existence, and people are looking for explanations for it. Like, I'm sorry, I have nothing to give you. You don't understand what a what is question is.
But why do they want to know? Well, the church wanted to know so they'd know when Easter would be.
This thing is still going on though. Like, I mean, you have people who are promoting things like ether, and part of the reason why they're promoting these things is a way of explaining how the sun moves through the sky type stuff, or how the stars do this. It's like, you have no idea how any of that works. It's so far away from you and your purview, your reach. You know what I mean? It's like the ultimate grasp is greater than your reach situation. It's like, you have no idea what any of that is. You certainly can't. You know what I mean? It's trying to come up with answers for, just because heliocentrism says this, that, and the other thing happens. That doesn't mean you have to come up with a new lie. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why are you coming up with stuff now? How are you any different if you're coming up with nonsense?
It's pandering. Let me answer you. It's pandering to the audience.
Yes.
Well, why do the stars move in this way? And if you had a certain amount of humility, you'd go, I don't know. But they can't. They don't have that level of humility. They're suddenly put in a position where their authority is granted. So they utilize it with bullshittery. You're like, just because someone's asked you, what's the moon, doesn't mean you've got to give them an answer. You can say, I don't know. The problem is that they go, well, if I say I don't know, that person's going to suddenly question my credibility. You're like, well, if they lack discernment and you having an inability to answer a question you don't know the answer to them lowers your esteem in their credibility, mind's eye, then so be it. That person's dumb. Now, if I don't know something and I attempt to answer a question anyway, I'd expect that to be to my detriment. Not to others.
And it is. That's why the piece of nonsense is so prevalent in this topic, because if the opposing side, if you're wrong, but the other side is more wrong or is also wrong, you can just put the weight of that wrongness on them and hide your own flaws.
Yeah, they try and trap me into every time I end up in a debate. It's almost every other time. They'll try and foist my claim about the sky onto me. Well, what is it? What is the sky then? What's the dome? What's holding in the gas pressure? You're like, I haven't made any claims about this. The antecedent consequent relationship that is gas pressure and the need for containment is what it is. It's not a positive claim. It's an antecedent consequent relationship. And because I state that antecedent-consequent relationship doesn't automatically mean I'm making a claim about the sky. In fact, quite the opposite. It's overcoming a claim that is fallacious about the sky made by our opponent. But I can understand that once that's been dealt with, that garbage that someone's just made up, it doesn't mean that I'm suddenly the arbiter of the understanding of the sky. I need to bullshit about ether. Like, so, okay, you've undone the powers that should not be in their wisdom about it being a sky vacuum that they bullshit us with pictures from space. Okay, well, what is it? I don't know. Hold on. You can't just undo someone else's entire religion and then say you don't know. Yeah, I can. Because I don't. I know what it isn't. That doesn't mean that I'm suddenly going to be the arbiter of what it is. Because I've debunked what it isn't.
Remember the Bowler started, when they started trying to debate us by saying, I'm not making a claim about it. You know, this kind of stuff. It's like, no, you are literally promoting heliocentrism, so you are making solid claims. You know what I mean? You know, this kind of thing where they would say, I didn't make a claim about the horizon. It's like, you did. The minute you tried to promote heliocentrism, you were directly making a claim about the horizon. You know, it's like they were treating it as a tactic that we were using, but we were saying we're not making a claim about it. And maybe up to a point with some of us, maybe it was a tactic in debate by saying I'm not making a claim about it. So that way you're not held to it. But the thing about it is that a lot of the time it was just honesty. It's just like, I'm not making a claim about it because I don't know. I don't have a claim to make. I don't know anything about it. How can I make a claim about what the sun is? I have no idea I don't know what it is, and I don't know how to find out.
Yeah, much to the frustration of our opponents. It's their religion versus you not knowing. And once you undo their religion, it's like you don't have to suddenly think you're going to lack guru status because you haven't got an explanation for something that previously did. You know, and even dividing the motivation of why people might feel the need to ascribe an explanation to where there isn't any. That's human nature. People want an explanation for everything. And I don't decry that. I think it's wonderful. Yeah, we should find out what the sky is. Maybe one of us will find out. But if we're always under the apprehension that it's something it isn't, and therefore too difficult for us to ever explore, then we won't ever explore it. More importantly, our focus probably wouldn't be on the sky, but for the fact that we've had our attention placed on the sky. Yeah, there'll always be a certain amount of mystery about what the sun is and what the moon is and what the stars are, or why the sky at night is black and the day sky is blue. Those questions will always probably be there. But in terms of what can we actually discover, well, we discovered more land, more territory as we expanded our known plane. Well, that actually bore fruit and bore resources and people, new resources, new lands. That's what we experienced up until the point that we had the globe foisted upon us. Now there's no, you're not going to find anything else, and let's look to the sky for resources. It's crazy. So after you relinquish the idea that where we previously found resources out towards the horizon, we should now look at the sky after we know that they bullshitted us about having resources in it. Once you know that there isn't, and then they're never going to come back with moon rocks or Mars rocks or colonize a light, you go, okay, but for the fact that they told me I needed to have attention in the sky, do I actually need to have any attention in the sky? Now, it might have some useful time tracking information, because a lot of the time concepts that we've derived have come from the sky items that we track to give them those concepts and conventions. So yeah, definitely, there'll be some useful prerequisites to the time conventions that we already use. So in that way, you could say it's a regression, you could say it's a progression. It doesn't really matter. But beyond that, how much further does my fascination in the sky actually stretch? Perhaps not very. How high can you go? This high. Okay. Well, beyond going higher and seeing more black and the land being lower below you, what would be achieved by going higher? Is there any resources up there? Are we going to get there and suddenly find gold? And mining rocks capable of giving us... No, we're not. Never. It's garbage. So therefore, the fascination runs out, doesn't it? We're told our entire religion was, from everybody here, a world of sky vacuums and vast distances to rocks and planets and life and intelligence and technology and all the things that go along with it, all as we stare up. Once that goes, give me 3 reasons to look up. You know, you'll be struggling pretty quickly. Because there's no fascination there once we've been told to be fascinated in it. Once that's taken away, we've got stargazing and the motions that have given us some of the conventions, which might regress. But that's it. Meanwhile, we found lands, we mined them, we found new people on them, and then we stopped. You actually have a video to cover today. Brian has said that it might not be appropriate for the show. As you're here, Brian, you might as well tell me verbally you shared it about there being 2 suns.
But it was the concept more than that, this, because it's talking about a second sun. There's other conspiracy type websites, channels on YouTube and other places talking about the same thing, that there's actually a second sun. And just to give not so much validity to it, but just to point out something, some years ago, back in 2016, an astronomer, I think it was 2016, an astronomer came out and said that there is a second sun and that NASA know about it and they're not saying nothing about it. And he was kind of very livid about it. Now, I didn't hear about him after that, but he said there is people out there that do know and are in my field that know about it, but they're not saying nothing about it. So, it's like, I'm kind of wondering, is there a second, let's just say there was, right? I'm not saying there is. Let's just say there was a second one. And it has a second cycle. And that cycle will allow it to do something at a particular time of this year. And then that allows people to video it doing that something. Basically, it Chinook's on, right? But it won't do it next year or something. You're not going to wait. There could be a second, another luminary that the everyday person is not aware of. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know. Like, I personally couldn't prove there's only one sun. That's all I say. But that doesn't mean there's more. But it doesn't matter. I was just throwing it in there as I found it kind of interesting because I was waiting for this.
Should we have a listen?
You can if you want, but I don't know if it'll suit the show or if it'll
it's worth a listen. I'm intrigued because just by pure chance, Craig on the panel was saying that when I popped down earlier to ask about Wi-Fi issues that I've been having that are causing the computer to go wonky when it's connected. So he's made a suggestion, and we just happened to get chatting, and he happened to mention that it might be the case that there's a second dead sun that's causing eclipses. Pure speculation, obviously, but it was just fascinating that you then suggested this video, which is why when I read it, I'm like, oh, maybe we could cover this today, as it's literally within 3 hours the second time I've had reference to it from 2 different people.
It's funny.
May I say something?
Yeah.
You can. I just want to just let me do my call to action. So in the chat going by now, we are going to cover this video. So the channel is called WoodwardTV or WoodwardTV. So please let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Just tell him that we gave him a response. We will cover it shortly. Go ahead, Eli.
So I just wanted to say that I think there is a phenomena. And aside from that, like, there's really nothing else you can say. As far as what Brian said about, like, maybe this thing is, visible at some point this year, maybe it's not next year. I think this phenomena happens, like, at certain points during the year because of the angle of the sun and your relationship to it. But there is a phenomena where you see this if you take, I don't know, even just a phone camera or some kind of what do you call it? Something that blocks out light. What do you call that? Filter.
Yeah, filter.
You can see like a small little
UV filter.
A small circle, like at the 2 o'clock position next to the sun. Like I've videoed it myself because I saw it on a YouTube video when I first got into Flat Earth after I met you guys. That's why I started talking about the what, well, I'm not going to bring up what I say about the sun, but whatever, right? And there's this guy that pointed it out. He was using his sunglasses to look at the sun through his camera, and you can see this thing on the side of the sun, and it wasn't, a solar flare or a filter flare, whatever they call it, glare or anything like that. And I couldn't
Okay.
see that until about 6 months later. But the reason I was looking for it is because they took the video down after it's been up 3 years. I had mentioned it in 24/7, and the next day the video was taken down.
Okay. Well, let's have a listen to Woodward TV and see what it's got to say.
Just before you started, what Craig said is interesting because there's something I didn't say myself. But when I was going through the eclipse, solar eclipse from 2017, and I picked out images, and I used all different filters from 3 different softwares. And what I actually saw, what I got photos of, was something that looked more like what they showed the sun to be. Because it didn't represent the moon. Now, I can't say it's not the moon, but I can't say that for definite. But I could say 85% that it's not the moon. Because what I was seeing and what I have the photos of, it just didn't represent the moon. All the patterns weren't there. There were patterns that weren't on the moon or aren't on the moon, and the patterns were more akin to what you would see with the sun with a solar filter.
The moon has something next to it too. Got a screenshot of that as well.
We were talking about that in the past, weren't we?
Pardon me. Pardon me.
Yep.
Could anyone I understand how this is in relation to heliocentrism and what they claim, but can anybody give a valid argument for how this is valid to what the nature of the surface of Earth is?
It isn't. Oh no, it's not.
It isn't. The deception that they've utilised to create an idea and an impression of a world that is spherical with those flat Earth measurements is also used in a predictive capacity, to suggest when things like eclipses will occur through occultation in the heliocentric model. Now, when you directly tie the extrapolated globe Earth heliocentric mathematics from the original measurements of a flat plane, you could say that those original flat plane measurements and the predictive capabilities that are offered through those mathematics can be attributed to a flat Earth, because that's where their origins lie when you make these predictions. So, in a very loose manner, with 3 or 4 steps, I can take it back to a flat Earth. But what in reality, the reason we'd be looking at it is because heliocentrists assume that a globe Earth in a heliocentric orbital motion and occultation of these various different orbiting bodies, physical in nature, and their occultation are what create these effects, predicted in a time manner through their majesty of the globe Earth model that's derived from flat Earth measurements. Does that make sense? That's why we're looking at it. But no, we don't have any association that we would say this eclipse proves the flat Earth, because we wouldn't do that.
Yeah, right. I just wanted that to be made perfectly clear.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's have a listen.
There is something that is coming upon the Earth, something that several of us have been discussing for quite some time. Let me just start off with this, because many of you may have not noticed, but several news sources have been covering it.
Firstly, right, you need at least 2 inches between you and your mic. Put it off to one side. You've got 400,000 subscribers, right? The least you can do is learn how to use a mic properly. All I can hear is plosives and wind noise because he's literally got his lips against the microphone.
Let me just give you an example here. A strong geomagnetic storm could produce northern lights farther south than usual early Monday morning. Charged particles crashing into Earth are expected to create strong...
So grating. I'm sorry, I should be paying attention to what he's saying rather than listening to the horrendous audio quality and plosives. Get a pop filter, move your mic an inch away. What's your problem? I've said it twice, I'll try and ignore it.
solar storm conditions early Monday morning, prompting a geomagnetic storm watch as the northern lights could be visible farther south than usual. Again. The SWPC, the Space Weather Prediction Center, is predicting the northern lights to be visible after midnight through the pre-dawn hours Monday across much of the northern U.S., as far south as Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and Massachusetts.
Go and look at them. If you get the opportunity to go and see them, just do it. Right, book time off. Hope that you get a clear sky, because it was majestic when it happened here unexpectedly. And my wife just told me it was being announced on Facebook, and she was like, "Oh, the Northern Lights are over us." Oh man, you should have seen me. I bolted out of the house quicker than you could possibly imagine the moment I heard. So, and I'm glad I did. So if you're in one of these regions, this only came out 9 hours ago, and we're live right now. So if you're listening to this, make a note and see if you can go and witness the aurora. It's one of the few times that I really was sad that I'm colourblind, because that particular bit of the majesty was definitely robbed from me.
Now, how many times have you heard this, folks? How many times this year have you heard this? Northern Lights were seen as far south as Las Vegas last week. Those up early on.
Anybody know what the aurora is?
No, you better not be making claims about it, or somebody's going to crack your head. I guarantee you.
Well, I'm man, you're way ahead of me. I'm predicting that that's what's coming. There's going to be a claim made, so I just thought I'd get it on the table first.
Whatever it is, it requires a flat. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, this smoke.
Well, no. If you're going to describe the aurora, there's nothing that we're going to use. It's like rainbows, isn't it? You're not referencing it for positional data. There's nothing you're going to utilize in terms of a measurement from it. There's no practical application for it. It's just beautiful. So therefore, there's going to be no reference to flat. That was John's point, like literally 3 minutes ago. I don't know if you weren't listening.
Thursday during last week's strong geomagnetic storm, we're likely surprised to see northern lights in parts of the Northwest and across the northern U.S.
So they attribute it to a geomagnetic storm then? Okay. Because what? Is the claim of a geomagnetic storm a heliocentric claim? That is to say, it's the sun creating this through a heliocentric sky vacuum and reaching us and causing the chaos. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's garbage and unsubstantiatable, and the orbital motion of the sun as a physical entity in a sky vacuum violates several natural laws and is derived from flat Earth measurements. So this is an unsubstantiatable claim that he spewed out because it was on this Fox Weather website, presumably.
Lights were even seen as far south as California and southern Nevada.
Just in case you're failing to keep up, because we are talking quite quickly and it might not be a subject you're familiar with, what are we actually talking about? Lights in the sky seen further south. That's what we're actually talking about. That's what we're actually experiencing.
Including on the Bureau of Land Management cameras near Angel Peak.
Yes.
Nathan, just pause a second. Just so you know and other people know, this guy made a video of a flat Earth some years ago. And he was saying, so, yeah, well, show us the curve. Show us the curve. Okay, we can't, he said, right? Right. He actually admitted it, right? And his video was such a joke. I was literally joking in his comments section, but his video disappeared.
His
the one
flat Earth
video that he put up, gone, disappeared. And I asked him on one of his other videos, they're probably a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, I said, hey, where's the flat Earth video gone? No answer. Not ready.
Shocking. Well, he's got my intrigue. I'm glad you shared this. You said it wasn't appropriate, but I'm enjoying it.
I recently uploaded a video discussing how there are cycles that we go through. Seasons. Some of these cycles are small enough for us to observe on our own.
Hold on a second. I just need to write this down. Hold on. Seasons. Gotcha.
we can observe these patterns. They're not much to figure out because they are pretty consistent, just like the sun rising and setting every day. That's something that is easy to observe. And then there are massive cycles that are not so easy to observe. Cycles that exist outside of our observation in the heavens, in the stars, much larger seasons.
I don't know if Craig's listening, but again, this pure chance that this is exactly the subject we were talking about from, I think the name's, I can't remember the name of the videographer that he was showing me earlier on this morning. John Pierre, I think the guy's name was. And he was showing us this cyclical clock that's running on a 24,000 year cycle, which is what this guy's now talking about.
I know that people are curious about the idea of Nibiru, Planet X, Planet 7X, Nemesis. The hypothesis...
Hypothesis? Oh dear. So we're immediately into using scientific words. People want to know what this Sigma 17b light in the sky is. People are fascinated with this light. Yeah, they might be. Yeah, what's this light here? Fascinating. It's a light in the sky. But now we're being offered the suggestion of hypothesis construction. So before he continues, for the audience's benefit, hypothesis in the context that we're dealing with, this is the natural world. Yeah, so we're talking about natural science. When we talk about hypothesis, that's a prediction of cause when observing phenomena. So we're going to be suggesting that the phenomena are light in the sky. Depending on how he frames that, it might not even be a phenomena. It might be a concrete noun. Bit too close to call, bit too early, rather, to call. But nevertheless, it might not even be a phenomenon he's describing. But we'll grant him. We'll say the movement of this certain light, or it's a certain behaviour of a certain light, is the phenomena. Well, a hypothesis would be to suggest that you can induce that effect by varying something that you have control over, otherwise known as an independent variable. So your hypothesis will be your independent variable, supposition of cause, will cause the phenomena that you observe. That's a hypothesis. It's called a scientific prediction. Now, the way you validate it is in an experiment. That is to say, you vary that which you assume causes the phenomena and see if it causes the phenomena or not. If it doesn't, you validate your null. If it does, you validate your alternative, and that's science. That's the scientific method. But he's using these words not because he's going to actually provide a validatable hypothesis in any sort of scientific context. He's just stealing the valor of this method to suggest some empiricism to what he's about to say.
That we may be living in a binary star system.
So your hypothesis is a Nostradamus, meaningless statement that we could be living in a binary system. That's a meaningless word salad. Certainly not a hypothesis. But rather than saying, here's some meaningless word salad, because people might realise that it's just chatting garbage that doesn't mean anything. Instead, he knows he's chatting garbage. He knows he's about to spew some meaningless garbage about being in a binary system, whatever the bloody hell that means. Tripe. So what can you do? You got some tripe that you need to spew. Better to call it a hypothesis before you spew it, because then people will nod, oh, this guy's clever. What a charlatan.
That our sun has a distant companion.
This is a hypothesis, is it? No, it's just your made-up, just so bullshit. That's what it really is. The idea that the sun has a companion. All right. That's a hypothesis, is it? No.
You know, we may have reference to this in biblical scripture.
So it could be a historic speculation as opposed to a hypothesis. Now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty of what it really is, but he's already stolen valor. It's just scummy.
Although we can interpret biblical prophecy in several ways.
Can you interpret a pop filter?
We may have a reference to this star in the book of Revelation.
So these guys are all the
cares?
same, right?
Who cares? Go ahead.
These guys are all the same, right? Like, before they show you what they've seen, before they give you an observation, they have to lather it up in all of this gravy. I'm like, show me what I came to see, man.
Wait, are you lathering up in gravy? What kind of weird sex life do you have? Lathering up in gravy?
A very healthy one, I might add. But that's not for the show.
Now, again, this is just one of several interpretations of the scriptures. That doesn't mean this is the case, but
We're talking about maybe a stretch, an observed phenomena, and we're applying a historic biblical standard to it.
But
God, just let me get it off my chest. This guy's got almost 500,000 subscribers. Now, as a YouTuber, this is like nails on a chalkboard to me. The guy's got a popping, overpowered, overbearing, wind noise-driven mic that he's not noticed. And he's talking utter shite. Give him 500,000 subscribers. It's just so infuriating. As a YouTuber who works his socks off, I just want to get that off my chest. Go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry. I shouldn't whinge. It's very unprofessional. Now, if I'm watching, please share the show. Go ahead, Brian.
yeah, I just want to point out, like this guy, he's just doing the same as a lot of these people do. And the reason they do it is because they don't have an argument. They don't have any evidence, I should say, for anything they're saying. So all of these kind of people who talk about space and they speculate about, whatever they speculate about, right, concerning heliocentric space. What he did there is he used the word hypothesis. He spoke about it colloquially, but because he used the word hypothesis, it instantly gave some scientific valor to it, right? But then he brought up the Bible, which is nothing to do with a hypothesis. And now he's after taking a step away from the Bible that he brought up because there could be several interpretations of the same thing. So it's becoming more and more vague and spread out and unconcentrated. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Is it the Texas sharpshooter type situation?
It started off by greasing the skids, and now he's just diluting the evidence he's actually presenting.
Yes.
this is one interpretation that you may or may not agree with. And that is that we may already have a name for this second star. According to Revelation chapter 8, verse 11, the name of the star is called
Tony.
Wormwood.
What?
Oh, it wasn't Tony. Okay, well, that was his preamble before his intro.
So funny.
Right, Matt, so I'll do another call to action on the hour. We'll stay alive a little bit longer because we've only just really got into this. We'll do a few more minutes at the very least. Here's a link to his channel. Please let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. As you can see on screen, it's WoodwardTV. And yeah, please don't give him any crap about his plosives and popping mic and lack of pop filter. Just let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment that doesn't immediately get either censored by the YouTube algorithm or removed by the videographer. The idea being that in our limited capacity with far less subscribers, we are still sending the YouTube algorithmic love his way, and the hope would be that if he was to make a response video, he'd do the same for me. If he does, please please put my link in the info box below your video to help us where we definitely don't receive any YouTube algorithmic love, in spite of us talking about facts like measurements. We're still considered flat earthers, therefore censored. So if he was to put a response out there, hopefully he'd put a link to Nathan Oakley 1980 like I'm putting towards him, as you can see going by in the live stream chat now. And hopefully that's brought enough time for some of you in the live audience to actually do this. So in a couple of previous live shows that we've done, people have not actually affirmed that they're actually going to do this. So people, if I do it 2 or 3 times, might actually think, oh, bloody hell, he won't shut up until I've actually gone and done this, because people are checking. So please do it. If you are in the live stream, there's 101 people watching. Woohoo! Thank you very much for sharing the show. But yeah, please go and actually do drop WoodwardTV a link and let him know that at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, we responded to your video, Revelation of the Second Son. What's with the lowercase? Revelation uppercase of the lowercase, second sun, uppercase. Give him 400,000 subscribers.
Listen,
that's
there's
right.
a good chance.
So I'm going to read something to you, and I want you to hold that idea of a second sun in your head for a moment while.
Okay, I've got it in my head. Second sun. Anybody seen a second sun?
I think I've heard this story by a few people, and I think the claim is going to be Sirius, the star Sirius, and then what they try and claim is because over time there's sometimes Sirius star in the light in the sky seems to be red and then blue, that they put a distance to that which is further away from the sun and closer to the sun, and that's
What?
the sun's partner.
They're saying the dog star's the sun.
No.
Let me get this right. They're saying the dog star's the sun. The second sun.
Sirius.
Yeah, dog star.
I read this. And the seven angels which had the seven trumpets prepared themselves to sound.
Go on. Was that Eli? Was it Neil?
Yeah.
Indeedy.
The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood. And they were cast upon the earth. And the third part of trees was burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. And the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea. And the third part of the sea became blood. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died. And the third part of the ships were destroyed. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star.
I paused it just at the wrong moment. He was just about to say, there fell a great star.
Star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers, and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood. And many men died of the waters because they were made bitter.
Okay. Therefore, second son. What the hell?
And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so as the third part of and heard of the other. The first angel, life or death, was burned. Some could burn up some of the trees, but all the green grass. The key word there is green. I'll tell you what could do that. The sun can do that. The heat or radiation from the sun. You've seen it happen yourself, haven't you?
What? Yeah, I'm going to need help here. If you're talking about colours, I'm just going to be so useless. What's he babbling about?
Well, he's trying to make it further
Got me.
away from his original proof. Go on, John.
I
was just saying, you got me. I have no idea. I have no idea what he's talking about. He's babbling at this point.
Okay, that's so it's not just me not knowing what colours he's talking about, or something that the sun does that I'm unaware of with it changing green or something.
I think he's talking about grass when if it's been, sometimes the sun can scorch the grass if it's really, really hot summer, I think.
Green, green grass, blue, blue
And the
sky.
second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea. And the third part of the sea became blood.
Oh, I love the P's and S's. I just love them.
A great mountain burning with fire.
And the B's. I love the B's as well. The B's are great. The B's and the S's and the P's are my favourites.
Sounds like a meteor, doesn't it? It doesn't say that it is a star. It says great mountain.
Okay. So, it doesn't say it's a star. It says it's a great mountain. Should we send them round to commit him or what? What? I am so lost for words. Do other people hear this, and because he's read an extra 30 seconds of scripture that I skipped through, are they just in a little trance at this point when he's saying this?
And it's not given a name. But when this great mountain hits the sea, what does it do? And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died. And the third part of the ships were destroyed. Some of the creatures in the sea died, and some of the ships in the sea were destroyed as a result of this great mountain impact. Does that...
We all keeping track that the mountain is the star that it didn't say it was?
That makes sense?
No. No, it doesn't make any sense.
Pay attention.
Grammarly now uses AI.
It literally made no sense.
A lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. Now think about this for a moment. In what other context do we describe something falling? You guys have heard of nuclear fallout, right? Radiation fallout? Actually, you guys have heard...
This guy's a complete conspiratard, Brian. It sounds like Poncho Pete, doesn't it? The star's not the mountain, but it's falling from the sky. What else falls? Fallout falls. What's next? What else fallout falls? Like waterfalls. It's just the ramblings of a deranged village idiot, isn't it, Brian? He's not piping up. He's taking no credit. He suggested this video.
About what happened in Chernobyl, right? The nuclear disaster in Chernobyl. Well,
so if she weighs the same as a duck, then she's made of wood and therefore a witch. So we can burn her. The mountain isn't the star, but it's falling like fallout.
guess what? That word, Chernobyl, means black weed. And black weed is part of the wormwood family. And the name of the star is called wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood. And many men died of the waters because they were made bitter.
Why is nobody talking to this guy? This is what happens when you lock yourself in your basement and make YouTube videos with nobody around you to temper your stupid nonsense and go, what are you babbling about? The fallen mountain's called wormwood because of fallout and the gillyweed? What are you babbling about? Have you gone nuts? People say that we're insane.
Yeah, I couldn't come in there. My hands were wet. But it was funny that I couldn't because it's like, I told you, this guy is a complete conspirator. Like, he just rambles on, but he has ridiculous views and he has ridiculous popularity because he gives people hope. That's what he gives people. It could be hope. You might get hope out of it. That's what he's giving to people. That's why he has like 500,000 subscribers. He gives them hope through ramblings of conspiracy nonsense. Like,
it's just...
What's his...
Go on.
No, what's the guy's name on his video?
WoodwardTV.
Woodward.
WOOD TV.
what was
And the name
on
of
his
the...
Again.
on his Flat Earth video he came out with there some years ago, Mark Sargent went in and one of the first comments he said you're an agent. He called. He said, you're a total agent, and he is, like, the way he went about making the video, like it was like an agent. And then Mark, like, he never really does that, but he went in and straight attacked it, straight challenged the guy.
star is called wormwood, black weed, radiation. And the third part of the waters became radiated, and many men died of the waters because they were contaminated. Does all that make sense?
Absolutely not.
You just pulled that out of your butt.
No, it did not make any sense whatsoever. Right, we're going to spin onto some conclusions.
Yeah,
and we
how is he getting them dots together? I don't know.
Discover electro.
Sorry, Ad. Go ahead, Brian.
I'm just saying, how is he connecting those dots together? I don't know.
Did we skip past the hypothesis of the second sun?
No, that was the hypothesis.
Oh, right.
Backed up with a load of waffle from the Bible.
Takes a long time to put these presentations together, but I will come back to the subject. I just want you to digest what I've talked about here for now. If you are in the vicinity to see the Aurora Borealis this morning, enjoy the light show. So until next time, that's all for now, and there is more to come. I will be returning to this topic again in the future, and we'll take a closer look. I do have a recommended video for the day. Watch that video. It will be linked on screen at the top.
Yeah, speaking of which, I've done my call to action, but I'll do it again now. So please let WoodwardTV know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite, non-sweary, non-abusive, non-taking the mickey out of his terrible plosives and lack of pop filter. Just a polite comment that infers that we've covered his video and you've been sent his way as a result of me doing this call to action. So if you are watching live right now, please do that. Please actually leave him a comment and let him know that I sent you. But in the meantime, a massive thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Fortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, another massive thank you to all of you who liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, gifted a membership, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.